We got a lot going on in the markets today, folks. Latest round of inflation data. Jerome Powell talking out of his ass. Nothing makes a damn bit of sense. We're going to try to parse through it today on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us today, folks. As we get going, you know the drill. Every YouTube host asks you to do it, so I'm going to do the same. Hit that like button. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our channel. And remember that nothing we say is financial advice. Kevin, we got the latest round of producer price index data today. It came in higher than expected on the monthly. Year over year, it came in right around expectation. The underlying numbers are allegedly looking okay, whatever the fuck that means. We'll see CPI tomorrow. Meanwhile, we had Jerome Powell speaking somewhere at some event, and just buffoonery. The shit that comes out of this guy's mouth at times. I have, previously I tried to give a little bit of grace to old J Powell here, but fuck that. Like, the Fed has no clue what they are doing. It just blows my mind to see over and over again that they are just caught with their pants down. Like, inflation, persistent pain in the ass. A few quotes from today. His confidence in inflation moving back down is lower than it was. No fucking shit. On the housing market, the housing inflation has been a bit of a puzzle. Excuse me?
That's an ass scratch.
Really? You're puzzled by that. You don't think the fact that like rates are absolutely insane has anything to do with it? You don't think that's a problem? Like, it's blowing my mind right now. I'm so fucking annoyed. How are you? Sorry, I've been rambling. How are you doing today?
Doing terrible, man. How are you doing? Yeah, it's so aggravating to the point where it's just like, I texted you guys earlier. I've been fucking fuming for 3 years about this shit because I knew eventually it would lead us here. The funny thing though is that we're at all-time highs in the equity markets, and GameStop's fucking doing face rippers, and everyone thinks it's retail that's buying the hell out of this shit. But then when you look at what happened on Friday, probably wasn't retail that's pushed this market up, and Roaring Kitty kind of caused the pump itself to happen by him just fucking tweeting because he saw something that no one else saw. This market is so fucked. There is no saving it. Everything needs to go to zero. That is not financial advice. That is just how I feel in the moment. It's just maddening. And especially, I'm looking at the markets right now too. I'm looking at the S&P and all this shit. But ahead of tomorrow is such a massive fucking day when no one really cares. We got CPI coming in, which, if they took out coffee, is going to come in hot? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. Do I care at this point? I don't think I do. I think the important thing that we really have to do is just
none of it matters.
You can't. I mean, I feel like a college kid that just says everything sucks. Kind of how I feel right now, just thinking about how nothing makes sense. So I'll let you take it away. I'm gonna ramble. I'm just fucking flustered at this point.
No, and we're seeing all sorts of stuff, and we have jokingly, but not really, have talked about this as like a potential lost decade. And the further along we go, the more that is becoming a reality. We're seeing commercial real estate falling apart before our eyes. Like just all sorts of big commercial properties being sold at massive losses. The regional banks are going to be getting crushed by this. We have saw another article today from a real estate group that did a survey. 43% of recent home buyers struggled to make mortgage payments. The middle class is vanishing by the second. Both administrations, I don't care if you're a Trump guy, a Biden guy, fuck them both. Both administrations have had their hand in destroying the U.S. economy. We have the Fed, who, like I said, is just fucking Mr. Magoo out here wandering around trying to figure out what the fuck they're doing. They have no clue. You and I would do a better job of running the fucking Fed at this point. Like, it's become an absolute disaster. The U.S. is a joke at this point in time in history. Like, we're going to look back and we'll get through it eventually. But someday my grandkids will be like, Dad, what was happening back then? And I was like, I'd be like, that's a great, or my grandkids be like, Grandpa, what was going on back in the 2020s? I'm like, well, we had morons running the show. That's what was going on. And I don't know how that's going to change anytime soon. You have, I'm going to ramble on insider trading. We have all of these, all of this fuckery happening, and no one wants to call it. No one's willing to do anything about it. Meanwhile, like I said, the average American family is getting destroyed. Like this, the American dream is not a thing anymore. Home ownership for most people, not a thing anymore. Getting out of debt, not a thing anymore. Like, it's all just gone to shit, and I'm just so frustrated with it. And like, I'm fortunate to where my family's is doing okay, and we're, I have it set up to where we're going to be all right. But man, it's so fucking frustrating. And so many people who don't even realize it yet are going to get hurt even worse. And it could have been preventable if we had anyone with a shred of competency fucking calling the shots here, but we haven't. And so we're fucked.
Yeah, let's not forgive Congress either, right? These are the
No,
people that
not
have
at
been
all.
there for both
Not at all.
and more. It's been decades for some of those people too. So, it's kind of hard to see change in the United States. It really is. That's just the truth of it. I think more of the change comes from within when it comes to Americans trying to make a better life for themselves, and that's why I've kind of been like adamant. I bring it up occasionally, but if you have the opportunity to get a second citizenship through descent or something like that, it's not a bad hedge, because there are opportunities outside of the country that you're born in where you could have a pretty nice quality of life for a huge discount, right? You're going to go where you're going to, I mean, there's a No May Capitalist. It's a famous YouTube channel. He always says, go where you're treated best. It's like, how can you blame anyone for doing that? Right. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for me because I know a lot of people my age and generation below me are the ones who are going to end up getting absolutely fucked out of every single opportunity that they probably would have wanted if they were to grow up normally in an economy that was sustainable, that wasn't, pretty much ran on a volume that's being generated from 0 days to expiration contracts. They don't know any of this stuff. They don't understand the Federal Reserve or how any of this monetary system works or how the debt markets are doing anything. Most people don't care about what you and I talk about, but it impacts them every single fucking day. So that's why it's really important. I think, right now it's very common to feel this frustrated. Ace, thanks for being here. Randy, also glad for being here. We were just ranting the hell out of pretty much something that you would probably upset about Ace too. It's just gotten to a point where nothing makes sense, and at some point, the stupidity and fraud that very similar to 2008 is going to come to a head. But maybe we should get into the charts and just talk about it here, because it seems like it's going to come to a head sooner than later.
I will say, I thought about Ace for a second earlier because I saw a story about Tesla charging stations getting vandalized because people are stealing the copper.
Yeah.
And I was like, is Ace up to something again? Like, what's going on here? But I don't.
So in other words,
him. I think he's too honest of a guy to do something like that.
So in other words, long copper, short Tesla, right? It seems like the trade there, but especially with Danny Moses of The Big Short coming out and saying, yeah, Tesla can go to $50. Who the fuck was saying that first? Us. We were saying it.
You were saying it. You were the one.
$4.
I'm not going to take credit for your call. You were the one who made that very bold claim that is now being echoed by some quite intelligent people. Let's get into the charts if you want. We can look at TradFi. Let's start with GameStop. Okay, let's just start with GameStop. Like, we might as well. It's still up big on the day, but look at it where it was from the open, and who is the people who pushed it up to that opening price. It was probably some retail investors who were buying in, expecting this to continue to go to the moon, which, guess what? It's already gone to the moon. It's the Apollo 11 that has circled the moon, and it's on its way back to Earth. And if you bought in this morning at the peak, I feel bad for you. You got caught in the FOMO again. I said on Twitter, the Barstool Sports guys were talking about GameStop, which means it is time to sell that shit because they are a recurring top signal.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's so many top signals when it comes to these meme stocks, and I saw a couple of videos and I really do mixed opinions because I was telling you in house earlier that on Friday I saw a shit ton of options being bought, calls right at the close for GameStop. And I should have known something was kind of up because it was an insane amount of volume that we were seeing. And pretty much you just saw the options volume, outweigh the put volume. And because of that, you're starting to see this squeeze. And the funny thing is, Roaring Kitty tweeting on Sunday night what he probably saw, very similar to what I saw, and him acting on it kind of led to this entire thing just taking off because then you got a little bit of retail behind you. You started seeing the price push up. People who didn't close their shorts are now having to close them. Now you're seeing institutions who are like, you know what? Let's push this even further. I think institutions were the reason that this pushed up on Friday. Those contracts, they were buying the shit out of them. Low risk, high reward, paid off. Paid off right before the OPEX, and it's a perfect time. Remember, I said yesterday that the OPEX date was so important here because a lot of people would be out of the money. 2 days, $5 billion worth of short sellers put a value loss in the market for them. So what happens tomorrow? Who knows? It's just it's wild to see this kind of candle happen. It went all the way to $80 in pre-market, and then obviously it opened up around 64.90. They've halted it so many times, and every time they halt it, the price goes down. Why is that? Probably because people are able to close the market, take profit, and then get out once again. You and I were talking about this too. We don't see them ever close the market to the upside. I said that thing about Nvidia and Meta and everything that kind of like shot up in the past year or so. Not one time did they stop at this. Very interesting. It boggles my mind, but at the same time, it's like it shouldn't. And again, I have no exposure to this. The best play for me when it comes to GameStop was no play whatsoever because you can't fight something that's this big. I mean, there's a reason why it's called Dumb Money, that movie, because people were dumb. Very few people made any money on it, and a lot of people lost. Sure, one big guy lost, but a lot more smaller guys lost in that battle. That's just my opinion on it. But yeah, this is just wild. I don't know how tomorrow's gonna open. I really don't. I see the 24-hour trading of GameStop also doesn't help because people are just longing the shit out of this into market open. I mean, you can get a red candle like you did back here, that kind of closing like that, but it's still up 134%. And then the next day it's down 44%, but then it's down 30% because it opens up. So people are still able to make money when this market opens up, depending on where the price is. The question is, you don't necessarily know or have control over that if you are a retail trader. So this is a very dangerous play. I've seen people lose 20% in a matter of 2 minutes on the open today. Good luck, guys. Just not something I am at all looking forward to seeing in my portfolio. I think there's actually more promise for even institutional investors, we'll talk about in a little bit, than retail at this point too.
All right, let's move into some other parts of TradFi. I'm just kind of scrolling through, looking at what's going on. Yeah, we'll do S&P. I see the bond market. It's a weird day because the bond market is getting bought up while equities are also on their way up. So I'm not really, I don't know. It's weird out there. Let's talk about the S&P. Why don't you got the chart pulled up already? You got all your wedges in there and your moving averages and all these lines and gaps and waves and Jesus Christ, man.
It's a wedge of stinky cheese, two of them, right? You got the big one here, and you got the stinky one right here, which
I am a fan
ironically,
of stinky cheese.
That makes one of us. Let's see. I don't like blue cheese. That's the only cheese I don't like. But this is the part that really pisses me off here. Is we're probably going to hit all-time highs in the S&P, right? We're not very far off at all. 52.64. You might get there right before the close today. This would definitely mean that this pattern probably isn't quite done yet. Even if we push up from it, we're still pushing up within this pattern. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. But I do think that what we're seeing here, which is very concerning, again, going into OPEX, is low volume. It's the 10th day of just decreasing volume. Even though the price is up, the volume is down. It makes no sense whatsoever. There is some type of catalyst that's going to come that's going to absolutely flip this on its fucking head. We're seeing the VIX being crushed once again, too. So that's why I don't think anything that's happening here, and I really question what happens with CPI tomorrow, how bad it's going to be, right? See, I kind of thought the same exact thing on Sunday night. They was just posting nonstop. I mean, he's not saying anything about buying anything, but it's just a bunch of memes that just keep being posted. Who knows? But going back to the S&P here, this is not a good look in my opinion. The volumes are just insane.
Sorry. I wouldn't be shocked if he sold his account. Like, I know that's like been a rumor going around, but it wouldn't surprise me either. And manipulate the shit out of GameStop.
He doesn't need to come back, right? He doesn't. Not at all.
I think so.
The question is, you would think he'd come out and say, well, it's not my account anymore, right? That'd be the interesting thing to find out. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that he gave up after all those hearings and everything, made his money, has a quiet life somewhere else. But I digress. This is the thing that concerns me: the low volume and the price pushing up. That is never, ever, ever a recipe for fucking success. That is a recipe for disaster. But we're not in a rational market. That's why it makes this so fucking hard to understand. Like, if this is going to continue pushing up here. Now, this could just be a double tap here. We have CPI tomorrow. That's a huge market mover. It'd be funny if CPI was a fucking dud, like it did nothing tomorrow. But I would assume that it's either going to push up or it's going to come back down. It's one or the other. It could go sideways, but if that's the case, then we're going to wait till after OPEX. People can take profits, and there's a good chance we could see a lot of people sell off. And it kind of lines up with what we're seeing here too. Let's pull up the euro. The euro is and again, it's the euro, guys. We know that they're cutting rates soon, right? So that means that the euro's value would drop most likely in June. However, CPI here in the United States, if that comes in hot and these guys are going to be cutting rates, well, that's going to push the dollar up significantly because people are going to try and get out of equity markets. You would think logically, right? I can't be logical at this point anymore in our little YouTube career. This is you would think that this parallel channel, it would break to the upside for the dollar if CPI came in hotter than expected. If you thought PPI came in hotter than expected, but today with PPI coming in hotter than expected, it went down a little bit. So we have to question if everyone's waiting for tomorrow. The fun thing is that we did find a little tap of the 50 moving average on the DXY. So it's still, a lot of people are saying that this is a bearish move. I think this is still bullish because we're above the 50 and we're within this channel. Tomorrow, kind of funny leading into this. Now, I will say this. This is the thing that's really scares me about tomorrow is that CPI, the dollar is always up going into CPI, and then it tanks right after. You and I have had this conversation multiple times on the show before. Dollar up, everything tanks right after CPI comes because people are like, oh, they're going to cut rates next month. They're going to cut it 5 times next month. They never do. But it's going to be interesting to see if this is the absolute inverse of what we usually see, where the dollar is down going into CPI, hot as shit, shoot straight up, and because the euro, they know that they're cutting rates for sure, most likely next month, that causes the euro to tank. And who gets hurt the most out of this? These guys, Japan's going to get killed, right? The dollar's stronger against the yen. That doesn't help them one bit. The euro strong, decreasing in value. Well, a lot of people are just going to fly to the dollar at that point. You're going to see the treasury market kind of react. It's going to be chaotic. And the reason I bring up the yen once again is because everyone's looking at GameStop. There is actually another company that you probably should be looking at. I'm not saying it's going to go up like GameStop. I'm not saying it's going to go down, but it's a company from Japan that owns 90% of this stock right here, ARM. We know that they have huge holdings in yen. The yen loses value. That hurts their entire market cap value of their company. They're probably gonna have to sell off assets in order to make sure that they stay liquid. The other thing is too, how many derivatives do you think they have in terms of all these meme stocks that are being traded and they have to provide liquidity? There's a lot of problems here we have to watch out for. Maybe you might not be able to reach out and grab Softbank itself because you're not in the Asian markets. Maybe you are, but ARM is one that you're going to have to kind of want to watch out for. I am very cautious with this one. I don't care about GameStop, really. I mean, it's fun to watch. I think that there's a lot of problems that are going to arise from it. But this one, I'm concerned about. We're going to keep coming back to this one as well. Now, the other thing, too, why tomorrow is important, and it's the last thing, and I promise you can get a word in, Jweb, is this right here. This is the Bank Term Funding Program, right? Let's look at this. And this is on the daily. Shouldn't be. It should be on the weekly. Yes, the weekly. Okay. Where are we? No, this is actually the daily. It should be on the weekly, right? Yeah. Okay, that's all messed up. There we go. The 13th. That was 2 days ago, right? Today, or is today the 13th? Yesterday. My bad. So yeah, so this is the week of the 13th, and we're probably sitting at around. Oh, that's why. That's why I'm fucking up. Let's look at May 13th last year. Right about here. About $87 billion it was at the Bank Term Funding Program. So you would think that by this point right now, it would have dropped at least to about 87 billion. Where are we? Nope, only 54 billion. Probably should be adding up, but it's not. And that's kind of that 30 to $40 billion that we have seen as shortfall that has not been paid on time. So we have to wonder if that collateral is good or bad. Now, we're not getting any information on it. Who cares at this point, too? But it just shows you that there is less liquidity in the system. Kind of lines up with what China and Japan are also saying in terms of selling off some of these assets. I am very concerned about this time starting now. There's just a lot of things that probably should be, being paid off. We're just seeing a lot of shit kind of hit the fan. I don't know what tomorrow brings, but there's a lot of chaos, and maybe they hold it till after OPEX, but my guess, anything could happen between now and summertime. I don't think May is done quite yet. Even if we crash from all-time highs, it wouldn't be the first time we crash from all-time highs. We can do it in 2022, and we also did it in 2024. What is that? Oh my goodness. Do you see? We have AI. We have,
What's
oh my,
happened there?
what
That
the,
was weird.
you saw that? Oh my gosh. What's going
When
on?
when did this
I'm not,
start? When did this become a thing?
you try it, Jweb. This is like fucking Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory floating.
No, it's not working. Maybe
Oh,
it's just you. It might just be you. Got a
that's
thumb up
wild.
here. My head looks like a thumb. We got 3 thumb. No, nothing. I got nothing. You're the
That's
one
wild.
that
I'm mad.
dude, you may need to get off the grid, man. You've said some shit on here and they are like they're on you.
I was being kind the whole time. Hey, I was just like, hey, this is the way it is. I'm just playing the game. All right, you go. Your turn. I've said enough.
I was so distracted by whatever the fuck was just going on with the thumbs up bubble and then the fireworks after that. That was pretty remarkable. Okay, let's talk crypto for a minute here.
Yeah.
As we begin to wrap up today's show, we're seeing some red across the market. The lone green spots I'm seeing are for a few meme coins and then US and some stablecoin dominance as well. So what is Bitcoin telling us right now? The gains from yesterday have been given back pretty much completely. And we're not as low as we were this time, a couple weeks ago, but we're moving back down. We're staying just above that 60K range on Bitcoin. Where are we headed from here, Kev?
It's such a bitch market sometimes. I really mean it. Like, just look at some of this shit, and it's just going back and forth. 50 moving average, we said that was heavy resistance.
We got a
Every time you
wedge
get,
inside of a parallel channel. Like, this is just some
I
real
don't know
top
what the fuck's
shit
going on.
here.
I'll be honest with you. This is just chaotic. What's going on in crypto?
We got the golden arches on the top left there, kind of look like some eyebrows. Like it's all over the place.
Let's just call it distribution because that's what I think it is. Now, could we break out of this? Could this be a bullish push to the upside? A lot of people are saying that this is also lining up with kind of an alt rally. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't have the answers. But all I'm seeing in terms of in the short term, which makes a lot of sense to me because it kind of lines up with what we're expecting in the medium term, which is that $52,000 level. Finding resistance at the 50 moving average, but you're also finding support at 60,000, almost 61K level. You're just going back and forth. It's a continuation pattern. If we were pushing to the downside, I would expect that the next move to the downside is to the downside. It's a continuation. It's really just mind-boggling to see how boring Bitcoin itself has been and how predictable it's been. If you've been a scalper, you've been doing pretty damn good here, right? You know where your support is, you know where your resistance is. You've just been back and forth, taking care of business, in and out, not doing any of that GameStop bullshit. But at least you're making money on the sideways trade. I'm still saying 52K, right? And if you don't hold that, scary times ahead of us, 39K, then maybe a bounce up. It's been the game plan, I think, for what we're seeing in terms of technical analysis. The funny thing is, we didn't talk about this last week, but stable coins, we saw that 90% of stablecoin volume was pretty much just manipulated, right? That was an article that came out about a week ago, and they realized that for some of the bigger exchanges. And it shows you, well, maybe some of what's happened in the past when we see this extreme amount of volume come in and the price push up isn't necessarily true. And then we have to question, is there problems that we're seeing across Tether? And we look back at this historical pattern for USDT dominance, I'm thinking that something bad is going to happen. Every time we get here, it's the top. It's the top of the market. I mean, this literally was the top of the market right here for Bitcoin, right? Bounced right off of right around March, April. And now we're getting away from it. And now we haven't seen, I mean, if this were to come back down, then obviously I think maybe there's a chance that we could see a higher high for Bitcoin, but we're not seeing it right now. And dominance is still on the rise here. It's between the 15 to 200. If it starts closing above the 200, I think you should be probably concerned about what that means for the entire crypto market. But the reason I bring this up is because when we looked at the volume for Bitcoin, it's Bitcoin dominance, but if we look at the volume for Bitcoin, in some of these times where you just have these massive pumps, sure, it looks like a lot of volume in a short-term time frame, but I mean, compared to where we saw the volume back here in March of 2023, the banking crisis, FTX, all that stuff, volume is pretty much non-existent. So, we have to question whether this is true volume or not. But the reason I say that is because we haven't seen Tether mint any USDT in quite some time. Ever since CZ got in a little bit of trouble, they gave him 4 months. They slapped him on the wrist and they said, "All right, we'll see you at the end of summer." Well, seems like they haven't been doing much. Now the question is, does that kind of correlate to what he might have said or what people are speculating is causing some concern for stablecoins? Even Paulo is pretty much saying that it's ridiculous that the US is going after Tether. There was I believe it was some article, maybe it was the Block, that said that he doesn't see that the US and Tether being enemies. He sees them working together. I don't know at this point, guys. I think that there is some sketchy stuff still with Tether, some of these stable coins, where there's a good chance that we could see some sanctions or some regulation come against them this year, and it could be sooner than later. So when I see this, even though Tether dominance, I would expect it to rise significantly. I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the case if something bad were to happen, like a delisting off the U.S. exchanges or something along those lines. But what it means for alts is, we're still not in some of these patterns. We should be probably pushing up here. Maybe there's a little bit of a push to the upside. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to cause it to just push a little bit higher to like maybe 82 cents or something like that. But for right now, this seems like this is going to break from the pattern. You're below the 15 to 200, which is definitely
Man,
bearish, 100%.
I haven't even looked at Matic since our bet ended a while ago. And
Yeah.
yeah, Ace, we've been echoing this for a while. Like, people are running out of money, man. Like, there's just nowhere who's buying at this point.
Yeah, and here's the thing that's really wild too with what happened. And I brought up the Roaring Kitty stuff yesterday with the stimulus checks, and it's like retail had a lot of money to be deploying back then. A lot of institutions had a lot of money to be deploying back then. Uh, this isn't necessarily a retail move. I don't think they have the money at $20, maybe here and there. Maybe you got a few guys like Barstool throwing 500K in both, AMC and GameStop. But outside of that, I think people are just hoping that they can make a quick buck. I don't know if that lasts very long. Going back,
Portnoy's going to get wrecked. Like, I mean, I know that he's super rich and all that stuff. He's
yeah,
going to get wrecked on those. Like, he'll get back like 100K from each of them, probably, if that.
he really should have took profit this morning. He looked like a genius when it was at $80 a share, and he bought in at like $30 yesterday, or I think at the post market. So good luck to him. I don't know if he's definitely gonna need it. But yeah, just looking across all these alts, I keep saying it. These things are pretty much showing us that they're in a bearish situation, right? I mean, last time they were underneath the 15 to 200s. Let's see. This is actually the first time that they're underneath both since the rally that we got from late 2023 to now. Let's look back here. We had a pretty bad year for alts last year too, other than that stupid XRP date, which I could tell you was like July of 2023, which should have been like right around here. Stupid day. But for the most part, when it's below the 50 and the 200, it stays below it for a period of time. This could be the beginning of something really, really nasty, right? Started getting below it here. That's just AVAX. ADA, same thing. Oh, fuck. Some old ass patterns there. Yeah, I mean, alts are going to be the ones that are probably first to go in the crypto market, but it doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't drop significantly with it. But it just seems like whoever's playing this game it's peer versus peer at this point, player versus player. I don't necessarily know if any money for like 2021 or 2020 is coming in. I actually can tell you for a fact that we're not getting those $1,200 stimmies by any means to play fucking craps online in Robinhood's 24-hour market.
All right, man. Anything else? I feel like we've had a good mix of some TA, some rambling, some venting of frustrations. Any final thoughts before we call it a day?
Good luck tomorrow, guys. I'm not going to be here for a show tomorrow. I got to work. Unlike most of the people who made it rich on GME in the past 2 days, I got to go make that fiat. But it's just going to be really interesting to watch Asia and also copper. Yes, copper for sure is going to be fun to watch. Also shows you how inflation is just absolutely fucking up a lot of the commodities out there. But it's going to be really interesting to see tomorrow. $5 trillion worth of contracts that are expiring related to the S&P. The VIX is still something I'm very much watching. I didn't talk about it too much today, but volatility is insurance that people aren't buying, and it's on the cheap right now. And I want to see that, how that plays out for them, because maybe they're right, but maybe they're dead wrong. And we've seen them be dead wrong twice before, both 2020, 2018. Very interested to see the aftermath of OPEX too, because there could be some rumblings in China and also Japan when it comes to seeing how some of those Forex markets react to CPI tomorrow. So it's going to be fun. be interesting. Just follow us on Twitter. We'll be shit posting, I'm pretty sure. Just having fun in this absolute, I don't know, this is like category 5 hurricane. Yeah, it
Absolutely.
really is.
And Jerome Powell is the ringleader right now. All right, that is going to do it for today. Appreciate those of you who are with us. Ace, thanks for chiming in as always. No show tomorrow, but we'll be back on Thursday to talk about CPI, OPEX. Kevin will give his Asia report, all of that good stuff, and much more. So please, if you haven't yet, like, subscribe, comment, share us out if you thought the show was decent. We're not even if you thought it was good, just if it was decent. We'll be back on Thursday. Stay safe in the markets. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.
Take care.